My guest today picked up and packed up and made a new life for themselves in another country, something a lot of us dream of doing these days since we've been isolated and having to stay in due to COVID. I want you to meet Sue and Diana, who are the founders and publishers and editors. We'll get their exact title from them in a second, of FoodTravelist, which is a wonderful culinary travel website. I'm Courtney Drake McDonough, the publisher and managing editor of RealFoodTraveler.com, and I'm so glad to have Sue and Diana as my guests today on the podcast. I've known them for a few years because of one of their projects, which we'll be talking about, and admired them for the fabulous content they have on FoodTravelist and the big, bold things that they've been doing in their lives lately. So, Sue and Diana, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
Hi, Courtney. Thanks so much for inviting us to join you today.
Thank you. And I'll have you tell everybody where I'm in Colorado. Where are you right now?
We are in Mount Estoril, Portugal.
Awesome.
And it's about 40 minutes west of Lisbon and about a 5-minute drive from Cascais, Portugal, which is right along the coast of Portugal.
Cool. Well, thank you, Zoom, for making this possible and easy. So I totally butchered your your title. So why don't you guys do a proper introduction of yourselves?
Sure, no worries. We don't actually go by former titles, so we can introduce ourselves.
We're co-founders.
That's right.
That's pretty much what we do. When push comes to shove, Sue is the president of the company and I'm the vice president.
Okay.
Yeah, that's for corporate purposes.
Right.
All right.
So we can introduce ourselves. That's fine if you want to do a formal introduction.
So how tell us what FoodTravelist is, how long it's been around, and that kind of thing.
Okay. Well, we founded FoodTravelist. Oddly enough, we had decided like many years ago, we both had corporate jobs and we wanted to do something together. And so we decided to start a blog, and we started a blog that was called Poshports. And now you may say, does that even mean? Well, yeah, unfortunately, that was part of the problem with that first blog that we had. A lot of people just didn't understand what the title meant. What we were trying to do with that blog was trying to give people information on how to live a good life for a little bit less. It was about travel, it was about food, it was about lifestyle, sports, news. It was really about everything. And it was doing okay. And we were like, well, there's a lot of content, a lot of different areas to fill in a blog like that. And so when we started looking at the analytics, it was blaringly obvious that what people wanted to hear from us was food and travel. It just kept coming up again and again. Every time we wrote about something, that was places that we went, something that we ate, a combination of those things, the content did really well. So we said, why are we doing this? Where we have this blog that, people we have to explain for 10 minutes, what it is. So we very quickly said, let's come up with something else. And so we came up with FoodTravelist, and obviously that name alone, tells you exactly what it is. And so there was no explanation needed when we were talking about our site. And so, as soon as we launched that site, and that was about 8 years ago, we started with having a lot of success right away, and so we knew we made the right decision. It was also something that we both had a lot of passion for. We love to travel, we love to eat. Diana loves to cook, so those things came together in a really good way for us.
And how long ago did you establish it?
8 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how about Food Travel Chat? Tell us about that.
Food Travel Chat was an outgrowth of the community that we had formed around the website, and people love to comment on things, and they were finding ways to share their own recipes, their ideas, their travel stuff. And at the time, we were looking at social media, and Twitter was just really beginning to have a big impact on community building. And Twitter chats were kind of becoming a really interesting way to get people together around a topic. So we thought, well, the things that we're talking about is food and travel. So let's come up with again, a simple name, Food Travel Chat. And we invited the followers of our website initially, and then just people in our own personal Twitter communities. And then people we would find us, people who were interested in food and travel. And eventually it took on a life of its own. And now I would say that a lot of the people who are on Food Travel Chat may or may not even know anything about FoodTravelist other than that, we're involved with the chat, but it's really developed into its own community of worldwide chatters who are interested in food and travel. One of the most exciting things for us is when we see people make connections and say, oh, I'm going to Australia, and somebody says, well, I'll meet you at the airport, or you have to go to this restaurant. And that over the course of we started it a little bit after we started the site. But we've had people who've been chatting on Food Travel Chat for the whole time since day one.
Yeah, the chat's been around for 7 years, now. So that community has really, a lot of those people have stuck with from the very beginning, and really made friendships out of it. I know we've also met a lot of people all over the world, that have wanted to meet up, once they know that we're coming to their area.
And people come and meet us here.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, a lot of people have, raised their hand and said, hey, we're really interested in Portugal, or we've got a trip planned, or we had to delay a trip or whatnot. We've already met with several people, some of whom have decided that they want to move here too. So it's pretty fun and an exciting time.
I don't know if you had them from the beginning, but you've had a crew of moderators. I've been proud to be one of them the past couple of years, where you share the questions with us, because there's a set of questions, kind of conversation prompts for each topic every week. And we all tweet those out as well, so that whoever's happens to be looking has multiple opportunities to see those questions. And then everybody just sort of pitches in and answers and likes each other's comments and retweets things. And when the two of you and I were talking recently, I loved the way you described what your original vision was for Food Travel Chat. So can you share that?
Sure. It's we describe it as a global virtual dinner party, which it really still is. And we keep reminding ourselves. And in fact, one of our topics was holiday party, and people love the topic. We ask 10 questions during the course of an hour. And we have moderators such as yourself who support the conversation by chatting with everyone. It's difficult at like any dinner party, whether it's virtual or otherwise, to see what everybody's saying and to engage with everybody. And so the group of us actually function together. And when somebody new comes on, we make sure we welcome them. When somebody has a really fun question, a side question, we watch the conversations grow from there. And the moderators and us, we've all kind of formed this wonderful nucleus so that the conversation continues to flow and people feel welcome. And one of the comments that we continually get about the chat is that it's so much fun and it's such a welcoming and non-judgmental environment. We actually have people who put up notes saying, oh, I'm so upset, I'm not going to be able to make Food Travel Chat, and I have to go to my grandmother's house and make her dinner, and but here's a picture of whatever the topic is, or I'll go back and answer the questions when I get home tomorrow. And so people really feel like it's a place that they hang out, and we love that about the chat.
Yeah. And when I became involved in it, it was the perfect time for me, because I was maybe a year or so into having bought Real Food Traveler from its previous owner. And it was so wonderful to immediately have this new network of people who were like-minded to me and to my readers, and to be able to encourage our readers to join in the conversation too. And this makes it especially wonderful, our big news, that I am taking the reins of Food Travel Chat from you guys starting in January of 2022. And I was so honored that you asked me to do it. and I promise you I will take very good care of your wonderful everything you've
We
built.
know you will.
And
You're not worried.
so it's a big responsibility because it is such a wonderful thing. But I know you guys aren't going to leave me floundering. You're still going to be part of it and part of the community.
No,
Yeah.
of course not. We'll always be part of the Food
Yeah.
Travel Chat community. We just think that now is a wonderful time for you to be able to give it new life and give your ideas. And you know, we know what we sound like a lot. I think sometimes even with the best of intentions, you know, after a while you want to hear somebody else's voice be a little bit more in the forefront. And so we'll be happy to take a back seat and support you in any way
Thank
we
you.
can.
Okay.
But we really are looking forward to seeing some of your topics and ideas and your thoughts on how to move it forward. Communities change over time, and this one has too, but it's still a vibrant and exciting community. Our experiences here in Portugal, you know, can only help support, I think, some of the more interesting things that we might have down the road for us
Right.
as well.
Well, that's a perfect entree. Let's talk about you and life in Portugal. Can you explain what the transition was and why and how difficult it's been or not?
Well, I would say that, well, first of all, it's rather a long story, as you can imagine, because I don't think anyone, especially our age, decides to move to another country, you know, on a whim, you know. So I had went on a press trip to Portugal in 2017, you know, and I was here literally an hour, and I had gone from the airport in Lisbon to a small walled city, medieval walled city called Obidos, you know, in Portugal, and fell in love in about 2 seconds, you know. And I was walking around that town. I had my first prestige Nata, you know, and I was walking around going, and talking to people and just seeing things and thinking, I can't believe this place. I must have jet lag or something, because this place is just like a dream come true. You know, it's like, I really love this place. And I got back to the hotel and I called Diana because she wasn't with me on that particular trip. And I said, you won't believe this place. I actually think I could live here. And I think she dropped the phone, because I'm a planner. I'm a think in advance person. I, you know, really, you know, talk about something until I know, you know, that it's right. And that's what I want to do. So for me to just kind of throw that out after being here for such a short amount of time, she was flabbergasted. And so I said, well, we definitely need to plan another trip to come back, you know. And so, you know, it took a while, you know, for Diana to get back here, and myself. Again, we came back in 2019. We were on a press trip to go to Madeira, and after that, we you know, took some time by ourselves to drive up and down Portugal, all the way from Lisbon, all the way back to
All the way down to Setúbal.
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
went to
we
Setúbal,
really
yeah.
went and covered from Braga, which is
Yeah.
up at the very north of the country, through Porto, down to Coimbra, some of the main, you know, cities, and then into the Silver Coast and the central area down to Lisbon, and all the way down. We did not go as far as the Algarve, which is really, really far south, because I don't think either one of us likes the heat that much.
Yeah.
And so it tends to get more hot down there.
Yeah, and we wanted to see as much as we could see on that trip, and see, but well, and as also learn, was this a place that we really could live, you know? And I think Diana, you know, also fell in love with Portugal pretty quickly too. You know, it's such a charming place, you know, for people that haven't been here. The people here are so very, very friendly and so welcoming. And I truly believe it's from their heritage and their culture of accepting people from other countries. I mean, there's people from other countries from all over the world, you know, that, I mean, obviously they were explorers, you know, the Portuguese were explorers, you know, and they brought back so many wonderful flavors and foods from around the world that are now here. And it's really remarkable when you go into the neighborhoods and you know, just see so many different kinds of people and everyone getting along, and then just living in this country so peaceably. it's really, I think, rather inspirational, and when you come here, as we have as immigrants, you know that you are different, but you also know that people are very friendly here and they will help you. It's like we've had many occasions, and you say, has it been difficult? It's like we also made I should say, we made the decision to move here, after that trip, and then we had, obviously to do all of the paperwork and go through what, how long it was going to take and whatnot. And of course, at that point, COVID hit and put a kibosh on us, coming, anytime, soon, at least not in 2020. And so we took our time, going through the paperwork and everything. And then, we were able to get here in the early part of April of 2021. And in that process all along the way, it's like, it's not a simple process. And obviously there's a lot of paperwork, there's a lot of things that need to be done. And there's times when you want to pull your hair out, and there's times that you want to cry, and there's times that you want to laugh, and there's times that you're really happy, and there's times that you're really frustrated, so I think probably the biggest thing I can say to anyone trying to embark on thing like this is, you really need to be patient every step of the way, especially when you're coming to a place like this. And I'm assuming a lot of other places like this that move a little bit slower than what we're used to in the United States. It's like, so things that you might think, why can't they just sign this and give it to me? It's like, it doesn't work that way here. It just doesn't, and so you have to smile. There's no, a lot of times in the United States, people will stand at a Target customer service and saying, "Mama," screaming, "Mama, give me this, I want this, I want." It's like, and that may work in the United States. That does not work here. You really need to be kind to people. They do not react well. As like, what? I wouldn't either. And I don't either, react well to people getting in my face and that. And it's like, so it's much more civilized here in terms of the way people communicate with each other. It's like, you don't see people just being rude, outright, to each other. It's just not done.
A lot of things here are more high touch as well.
Yeah, true.
You have to be here if you're getting a delivery, for example. They will not deliver it just and leave it at the front door or something like that. And you'll get a telephone to schedule an appointment, or
you can't necessarily just do it online. It's like, if someone's going to deliver something, they'll call you and say, "Are you going to be there tomorrow at 10?"
Right.
Well, yes, I will. Thank you very much. So it's kind of like a blast to the past. And some instances.
They have a lot of sophisticated systems, but very often those systems are used for part of the process. They have one very interesting system here called the multi-banco, which is basically an ATM, but it's an ATM that you can do everything from. And it doesn't matter which bank you use. You can pay your bills, you can order tickets, you can get a bus pass, you can use it as an ATM. It's really amazing, and they have them in grocery stores as well as banks and around, in different areas, which makes things extremely convenient because they have a very high amount of security around any transactions. And so you often will find you have a secret code, and then you have to match it to your secret code. And then it has to be matched to the secret code of the person or the company that you're purchasing something from. And it's all very, very interesting, but it works.
And how long do you foresee staying there?
Well, at least 5 years. We've put ourselves on a 5-year plan. One of the reasons that we moved to Europe was that we spend so much of our time traveling here that we really wanted to have access more easily to a lot of the countries in Europe and that are accessible from here. And the process of immigration takes 5 years. And then we can receive EU passports. And that was one of our goals. So at least that long, although I don't know that either one of us anticipates moving from here even after that. If we can't, you can never say never. And we'll be exploring Europe more as soon as it's safe to do so. Obviously, our travels have been limited just like everyone else. But there's an awful lot of Portugal to explore as well. So we have many days ahead of us that we look forward to traveling.
Yeah, and it's really, actually, it's hard to believe that we've already been here for 8 months. Yeah, we just passed our 8-month period on Christmas Day. So, we're like, wow, I can't believe it. We thought we would know so much more Portuguese by now.
Yes.
It's a rather hard language to learn, but we learn more every single day. There's certain things that I think that we thought we'd be a little bit further along on, but that are taking a little bit longer administratively. But all in all, I'd say, we're very happy here. I think most people say when they see us either on a Zoom or, our pictures, they'll say that they can't believe how happy we look and how relaxed.
Stress-free.
Yes, how relaxed we look, so it's been good. And it's like, the health system here works really well. We were able to get our boosters last week, we're really happy about that. To be in the system and being part of that is very helpful. That's for sure.
And you have day jobs, quote unquote, that you're able to do remotely, right?
Yes, we,
Yeah.
we both are still working. We're not retired, and I'm a professor at a university in Chicago. I'm still teaching, and obviously we run FoodTravelist, and we also are both consultants as well. I do some marketing consulting, and Diana does business consulting as well.
That's wonderful. So since you're in this wonderful place and in this wonderful position to really put the concept of culinary travel to work, talk a little bit, and I know this is the crux of FoodTravelist and it's the crux of Real Food Traveler too, but talk a little bit, if you would, about the connection between food and travel and why to you and to me they can't be separated.
Well, when we started FoodTravelist, we actually did some research and discovered that there's an organization called the World Food Travel Association, which helps destinations market itself to tourists based on their culinary uniqueness. So we took a deep dive and actually became certified culinary travel professionals. We had to take a long course with tests and all kinds of things to get our certification. But what we learned is really fascinating in that while a lot of destinations may have other things to attract folks like, ski resorts or golf courses or scuba diving or whatever, many people don't have hobbies like that, but every single person eats when they travel. And there's about, I think, 17 or 18 different profiles of culinary travelers. In other words, people who decide where they're going to travel because of what food experiences they may have. And they're as varied as people who like to go to experience farms, people who like Michelin-starred dining, people who like to brag about trying something that none of their friends have tried, young people who want to go and experience eating in somebody's home, other people who are, wine lovers, whatever. So we learned a lot about the fact that not only from a consumer standpoint is food and travel and naturally going together, but also from a destination standpoint, it's one way that a destination can really distinguish itself. And so when we were traveling, whether it was on our own or on a press trip or whatnot, we always travel with an eye toward how does that culture express itself through food. And of course, there are people, out there who have been doing this for a while, whether it's was it Tony Bourdain or, Giada De Laurentiis, or these folks for whom culture and food are synonymous with travel. We wanted to bring that to another level of traveler, maybe an aspirational traveler, and people who are making those buying decisions. Where are we going to travel based on what we want to eat? And then how do we learn about the culture through the food? And so for us, they're really intertwined very deeply. And both of us have our, ethnic roots and whatnot. So we've got affinities towards certain cultures and understandings of those cultures and how food fits in, just from the dealings that we had with our own families and that we bring to our family now combined.
Yeah, that what you're saying feeds right into what we always say about Real Food Traveler readers, is that they feel that they're not fully experiencing a destination unless they're experiencing the local cuisine too, and the ingredients and the methods of cooking and the people behind it. And I've got friends and family members who love to travel, but they don't necessarily want to eat the local cuisine, and it just makes me cringe. It makes me kind of crazy. But the only thing that keeps me from just wanting to scream at them is I figure, well, if they're eating American fare, at least they're tasting American fare that's being prepared by that country. So maybe there's a slight influence of that country that they're getting in there. But I feel it's a real shame and a real loss if you're not experiencing the local cuisine, and not just the iconic things, but the everyday things that people are preparing and eating there. So I love the concept of true culinary travel and love the way you guys describe it. I wanted to talk to kind of tying everything we've talked about together, because of the pandemic. Of course, people have rethought their lives. They're faced with death all the time, the fear of death all the time. And, as we all know, it's made people think, do I really want to be in this career? Do I really want to be living in this place? What do I want to do with my life? It's not just the drudgery of every day anymore. And of course, things like Zoom and other ways to work remotely and talk to each other remotely has completely changed things. So I just wanted to know, if, since the pandemic seems to be ongoing and maybe just a new normal for us, talk to me a little bit about how you think we look at big change in our lives now differently.
Well, and I think that's an excellent point. And I think that I think collectively, we were all in the same situation in March of last year, when all of a sudden, especially, for us, we're writing about food and travel, taking trips all the time, uh, and really getting out there, flying, traveling. And that was like a complete stop, right? I mean, so our way of life had changed dramatically overnight. And we were all forced to look at what were we going to do, how long was this going to last, and do we need to start thinking about, is there something else we can do as well, from not just from a career point but in financial point as well. And one of the things that we did during the pandemic, was we actually wrote a book, that called, what should I do now, which is a workbook on helping people to decide, how can they look at all of the skills that they have in their life and everything that they've done so far, and put those to use, possibly in a way that might be a little bit unique to what they're currently doing. And so that was kind of one of the things, I think, that played really well into that time. And so, we took a hard look at what we were doing, and, made some changes to how we were, going about our business as well. It's like we changed the way we were writing a bit, and started to focus more on recipes and, and really some, culinary aspects of places.
And bringing the taste of travel home, since we couldn't go and travel to the taste. So we did some videos, and we really focused on the idea that you can live a global life even in your own hometown. And with what should I do now, the idea is that some people were forced to rethink their lives, whether their company closed, they were unable to do the same work that they were doing, they had changes in their personal lives. I mean, because what should I do now encompasses a lot more than just your work life, right? And we found that a lot of people were asking us about, things in their life that they were stuck in. And so we realized that Sue and I both have had times in our lives where we've done complete resets. And we've gone through similar processes. And so what we did was we thought it would be helpful to write down what those processes were. And so we basically did a workbook that's 2 weeks of looking at every aspect of your life, maybe with fresh eyes, and to get to the point where you can look at where you are now and think about whether you need to go somewhere else in another direction. And if so, what that direction might be. Because I think overall, the pandemic has forced most of us to look at what's really important to us and who's really important to us, and how much money do we really need, and what are we willing to give up, and what do we absolutely have to have. And you can't always see very clearly when you're stressed about things like that. And so rather than sit and stew and be stuck with this overwhelm, we wanted to break it down into a step-by-step process that each one of us independently and then us together have used. Not necessarily helping people make those decisions, but helping them get to the point where they understand they do have choices and options, and kind of clearing away the clutter that I think so many of us really just got cobwebs because of this really ongoing uncertainty.
Right. Well, I think a lot of people don't think through how many skills they really have, and how to use them. Yes, because if you're used to doing a certain job in an office, you're doing that thing maybe repetitively or maybe some subtle differences, but you don't realize that a lot of the skills that you use in those jobs can be transferred into doing other things that you may never have thought about before. And I think I mean, for me, that definitely was the case when I started thinking about leaving my corporate job now, 15 years ago. It's like, so I think it's really helpful for people to know that, there's other people that have done it. I think that a lot of people have looked to us to say, I want, how many times have I heard from my students and they're like, I want to have your life, it's like, it's like, well, it's like my life has changed in so many different ways over the years. It's like saying, at different points, I've done different things, but I think that I've always left myself open, and Diana has too, to change, and to looking at things in a different way. And I think that's really important, especially as we went through, the pandemic and are still going through, these challenges. We still obviously have a huge passion for food and travel. We still write for FoodTravelist. We still have a hand in meeting with people and things through Zoom, and in other ways, maybe not traveling so much. But we've also started writing for other publications, and doing some other writing, that we probably wouldn't have looked at before if we were so focused on our own things. It's like, so you have to kind of look at the kind of good side of change, and what you want to do, what you really love to do. And a lot of people say, I want to do something that I'm passionate about, right? He's like, but I don't always subscribe to that, because sometimes, things that you're passionate about may not be the things that you can do to make a living, but it doesn't hurt to do something that you at least want to do every day, and not, have a job that you're just dreading, going to every day, or even just turning on a Zoom call for your boss, every day. I mean, obviously the workplace has changed dramatically, over the last 2 years. And I'm sure we're going to still see more change as we go through. So I'm just trying to be open to those changes and what they can mean to you and what you can do, I think is so important.
Yeah, this is a chance to sort of hit the reset button on our lives if we want to. I did not know that you'd written that book. How can we get that book?
It is on Amazon.
Okay.
It's called, What Should I Do Now? It's a 14-day workbook written by myself, Sue Riddell, and Diana Lascaris. So easy to find.
It's a big, bright blue and yellow cover.
Okay. Well, with our podcast, we always have a teaser article on the website with the little player in there, and that's our chance to provide some links and photos and stuff. So I'll be sure to link to your book so everybody can get that. And I know a few people in my life who can use that book, so that'll come in very handy.
We all do.
Yeah.
We all do. And that was probably part of the genesis of doing it is, instead of people really, I think what happens is you get so blinded by what you've always done. It's really hard to do that reset, or to give yourself permission to do it. We have, as Sue said, I've done some counseling and business consulting. And I've dealt with people who really never gave themselves the option to do something different. They were set on a course, and they not necessarily don't like it, but it's just what was expected of them. Mm-hmm. And they gave up along the way on some things that they really love to do, or some things that they were told you can't make a living at. And I think you probably know, Courtney, and we know that if you're really in love with food and travel, and you somehow manage to find a way to work in the tourism industry, your food and travel expenses themselves can go down considerably, so that the amount of cash money you need to make in order to pay for all that travel also goes down. And so there are a lot of different ways of looking at work and life and those things that are much more integrated. And I think pandemic wise, they're becoming even more integrated as people really start to understand how much of their lives have revolved around work, and their family is now maybe a little bit more in their face, if you will, because so many people are working at home. And I just think there are a lot more options, and it's not all about having to say I'm an X or I'm a Y or I go here or I work there. It's about having a life that makes sense. And what makes sense these days is probably way different than what made sense, maybe when I was coming out of college or when Sue was an executive. So,
Well, it's beautifully put. Really, a lot of. I keep feeling like I'm doing puns on purpose, but I'm not. But that's great food for thought. Well, I know it's getting late there in Portugal, and so I'll wrap things up and just say, thank you for so many things. Thank you for Food Travelist and for everything you do. Thank you for being guests today on our podcast. I think this will be very thought-provoking for people as well as entertaining. Thank you for everything you've done with hashtag Food Travel Chat every Wednesday, and for letting me be involved in that, and especially for enabling me to take the reins and for still sticking around to be part of
absolutely,
it.
we're going to be your biggest
So,
cheerleaders for sure.
You're not getting rid of us.
Yeah. Good. Very, very glad to hear that. So happy New Year to you both. I hope we all stay healthy, and I look forward to following you and continuing to be involved and see your adventures and see your gorgeous photos and your travels and life in Portugal and beyond, hopefully someday soon. So thank you both so much. It's been a real treat.
Thank you, Courtney. Happy New Year.
Thank you, Courtney. And we are wishing you every success with Food Travel Chat, and we'll be there helping in any way that we can.
Thank you very much.